It's becoming tougher and tougher to find some happy news, but this put a smile on my face. Chris Christie's new book absolutely bombed. Despite the fact that he was on every single mainstream media show talking about his book, very few people bought it. Now, in a second, I will say what this failure says in terms of what it says about Chris Christie, what it says about the media, and what it says about the Republican base. But before I get to all that, first, this data or this information here from pressrun.media. Writing a senior publishing source with access to the industry's book scan tabulations tells me that Republican Rescue, Chris Christie's book, sold just 2,289 copies during its first week in stores, which constitutes a colossal publishing flop. That figure does not include digital copies of the book, but based on industry sales patterns given Christie's week showing in stores, he likely only sold a few hundred digital ones. On Sunday, Republican Rescue was ranked 15,545th at Amazon's Kindle store. In comparison to Christie's 2,000 copies debacle, Jonathan Karl's new book, Betrayal, the final act of the Trump show, sold 24,000 hardcover copies the same week as the Christie failure. How Christie was able to sell so few books after lining up so much national media attention during his marketing rollout this week, and The View, Fox and Friends, along with Fox News, Fox Business, The Daily Show, HBO Twice, and CNBC, represents an extraordinary disconnect. All right, so this is amazing. Let me start with what it says about Chris Christie, because this is, I guess, the obvious part. That Chris Christie is very unpopular. Nobody cares what Chris Christie has to say. Yet, the media loves him. He was on all of these shows. He's a regular on ABC's This Week, their Sunday show. But nobody cares about Chris Christie, especially the Republican base. There is no interest. And people that follow this stuff closely, and I'm not talking about, MSNBC or CNN, but people that understand what the base is, what the Republican base is, understand that there is no appetite for Chris Christie-style politics. There's no appetite for anything that is pre-Trump. Donald Trump opened the door to a new style of GOP politics, which really, in terms of the actual substance, the actual policy, isn't all that different from where it used to be. The real difference is all about performance and the cultural issues and getting rid of the dog whistling and just being openly racist. That is now the GOP. I mean, that was the base beforehand. All Trump did was open up the window to really allow it up into the forefront. But it also shows you that the media can't make vapid and unpopular people popular. Chris Christie wouldn't even go after Fox News in his book, a book that's supposed to be about rescuing the GOP and away from the crazy people. He wouldn't even address Tucker Carlson, wouldn't criticize Fox News. I did a video on this when he was on Nicole Wallace's show. Nicole Wallace surprisingly hammered him over this, and Chris Christie had no good answer for this. It shows you how empty the man is. You're not going to be able to turn the GOP back to a pre-Trump era politics. It's not going to happen. The door's been open. I mean, who knows where the party's going to go in terms of the base and how extreme it's going to get. And, there's a lot of worry, at least from me, that it will get fairly extreme, as it already has. But it's not going to go back to where it was. That's clear. Now, I also want to show you he's obviously very unpopular. I don't know why anybody would think differently. He left New Jersey as the least popular governor ever, with a 15% approval rating. No governor in the history of New Jersey has been less popular than Chris Christie. Yet, still, he's a regular on mainstream news. People, apparently, the executives, network executives, think that people care what Chris Christie thinks. Nobody cares. And last thing here, this is from Boing Boing, breaking down why anyone knows Chris Christie. I mean, these are the three main points. I think they do a great job summarizing it here. So they say here, ex-New Jersey Governor Chris Christie is best known for three things: closing Island Beach State Park during a government shutdown, then taking an expensive taxpayer-funded family holiday there, to his disastrous handling of the deadly lane closure of the George Washington Bridge, which he is suspected of ordering to exact revenge on a mayor who didn't support his re-election bid, and 3, running against Trump by declaring him unfit to lead on January 4th, 2016, saying, quote, "Showtime is over. We are not electing an entertainer-in-chief. Showmanship is fun, but it is not the kind of leadership that will truly change America." And becoming an embarrassing Trump sycophant after failing in the primary. Just a month later, saying, "There is no one better prepared to provide America with the strong leadership that it needs, both at home and around the world, than Donald Trump." Why would anybody support a man who's known for these 3 things? But he's rolled out there in front of cameras as if he's someone you should pay attention to, someone you should care about. I think, in part with the hopes by those in elite circles that it will somehow convince Republican voters to go back to pre-Trump politics, but it's not going to take. It's that era is over. So you opened the door and allowed that man to come in by accepting what the GOP had done for years and accepting what the Democratic Party had done for years. Just answering to large corporate donors, billionaires, corporations, just different varieties of them, depending on the party. And that opened up this window for this real angst in both bases to want to revolt against the party. And one, when it comes to the Democratic Party, in a positive way, looking to someone like Bernie Sanders who actually cared about people. But when it came to the GOP base, in a negative way, going in a more fascist authoritarian direction. And, at the same time, though, when it came to Trump, what he actually did, it was just more of the same policy in terms of helping the rich, helping the large corporations, helping the wealthy. But it was his public persona, it was his antics that really made him popular with the GOP base. Whereas the Democratic Party base is a little more aware of the actual policy substance and what is helping people or what isn't helping people. And the Democratic Party's attachment to money is a major issue in the Democratic Party base that GOP voters apparently don't seem to care about as much. They're really more focused on being racist. So that's what motivates them. But it's just because that's what motivates them. They're not going to go back to Christie style politics or to pre-Trump politics where it's all dog whistling. They're not going to go back to the dog whistling. They're now openly racist, openly bigoted. That's here to stay. So, they can keep trying to change things by putting people like Christie out there in terms of the media trying to change things. But it's not going to happen, especially when the base is not watching most of these shows. They'll watch Fox News, but they don't really care. And I think that's pretty obvious in the results of Christie's book selling just a little over 2,000 copies.